Devil May Cry. The best way to summarize this game is peak early 2000s edge Kino. Back when you were supposed to actually play the video game. You need to either get good or you'd get your ass kicked. Oh, come on. Look at what the fuck? What? It one-shots you. Back when games didn't have journalist difficulty settings and there was no accessibility to turn Phantom, the big giant lava spider, into a fluffy animal because of arachnophobia, dude. Also back when cutscenes were actually short, sweet, and to the point. The developers back in the day didn't have budgets of hundreds of millions of dollars per game for cutscenes, so instead they'd have to pack each cutscene with as much soul and Kino as possible.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
Like, look at this shit. Before the game even starts, and you even see the title screen, you're already experiencing the action with our protagonist Dante and Trish attacking and shooting the screen as each word for the name of the game comes on the screen. Like, peak. You know, right here, we're experiencing fucking peak.
Just fucking real talk. Real talk.
You also have something which I really miss from this era of gaming, which I guess has become more of a relic of its time, is the opening demos, which you'd get for not pushing any buttons on the title screen, which would give you a mashup of the gameplay and cutscenes, so you could get a little taste of what the game has to offer before even playing it, before even touching it. We no longer get these. Even with the shitty soulless Silent Hill 2 remake, they removed the opening demo cinematic. Now, I'm not going to give some bullshit 30-minute intro where I give the development history of the game, cause let's be honest, we all know it at this point, and it's also been done to death. TLDR, the game launched back in 2001 with the peak gaming system known as the PS2, and the game pretty much created the action genre like God of War or Ninja Gaiden, you know, Bayonetta, that type of shit. And the game was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 4, but yeah, we aren't here to talk about that, but more so to review this masterpiece of a game and to give my thoughts and opinions on it, and maybe convince you to either play it or buy the Devil May Cry collection on Steam, or, you know, whatever platform you're on. Yeah, I'm actually here to be a shill today, but not for a shitty game that sucks ass, but rather a good game that doesn't suck ass. So when you hit play, you're greeted with the intro to the game telling you about the legendary Dark Knight Sparda, who rebelled against the demon world 2,000 years ago, and basically defeated Mundus, the leader of the underworld.
From the underworld, woke up to justice, and stood up against this legion, alone. His name was Sparda.
Afterwards, it cuts to some blonde woman with shades who is falling from the air and who definitely would not pass being in any modern AAA game without some serious nerfs in the looks department, okay? And also the melon department. But anyways, she looks towards some building with Devil May Cry labeled on it, and we cut to Dante, the protagonist of the game, and also the son of the legendary Dark Knight Sparda from the opening intro. Then the babe who fell out of the sky crashes through the doors with a motherfucking motorcycle.
Whoa, slow down, babe.
I guess that she pulled it out from in between her two giant mommy moo milkers or some shit. I don't know. I mean, like, seriously, where did she get this motorcycle from? But you also gotta really love Dante's carefree, laid-back attitude. It's also like this is just some ordinary, everyday thing for him where people just, you know, bust through his door with motorcycles. Also, I love his response. Slow down, babe.
Whoa, slow down, babe.
Like, there's talks of a Devil May Cry remake. I don't know if this is actually true. I don't know if they were doing 1 or if they're just skipping to 3. I'm not entirely sure and haven't really looked too much into it. But mark my words, if Capcom does remake this game, they will 100% cut that line. It's like offensive to feminists, and Trish will probably also be heavily censored. Like, let's just keep it a $1.33, okay? I miss this era of gaming, and I miss this era of Capcom when they actually still made good games and actually were based Japanese developers who didn't cater to the West and their bullshit politics.
You know, everything Latina Parfait he says is based and correct.
So we get some exposition dump and learn that Dante is a demon hunter and has also lost his mother and brother 20 years ago, foreshadowing something later in the game.
You're the man who lost a mother and a brother to evil 20 years ago. The son of the legendary Dark Knight Sparda, Mr. Dante.
Also, I'm sure this poster right here will be censored too if it ever gets remade. Then this strong and abandoned demon lady here beats the living shit out of Dante and uses one of Dante's own swords to throw it into his chest, which this won't be the last time this happens either. Then the blonde woman picks up the bike to toss it at Dante, only for him to whip out Ebony and Ivory, his two pistols, and to shoot the motorcycle back at her.
Time to go to work, guys.
As a child, I had powers. There's demonic blood in me.
What strength?
You were the first one to know about my vengeance. Looks like I'm getting closer.
This cutscene is only like a minute or two long, but it's packed with so much character and action. It really does just set the tone and the mood of the game, and it's just peak edge keto. It also just paints Dante out to be such a fucking badass. Like, he pulls out the sword that was plunged into his chest as if it was nothing, as if nothing fucking happened. So we find out this woman's name is Trish.
But I'm not your enemy. My name is Trish.
Which I've already said, a few times before, but this is the first time we actually learn what her name is. And she looks just like Dante's mother, which was a human, by the way. Sparda breeded with a peasant human, and thus Dante is only half demon, half human. Unlike in the shitty reboot where they try to make him into a Nephilim, which is half angel, half demon. If I'm talking about DMC, I feel like I need to just at least take a shot at the reboot, Don't play the reboot, it's dog shit, despite what some other people may claim, it's horrible. But anyways, Trish explains Mundus was resurrected, which is like the head demon of the underworld 20 years ago, and he's trying to regain control of the human world through Malay Island. So that's basically the plot of the game, and so Trish takes you to Malay Island, and this is where your journey begins. There really isn't too many more cutscenes or plot points after this. It's mostly just explore the big spooky Resident Evil castle while defeating and killing demons, which is fine. This is what I liked about older games. They didn't overstay their welcome with shitty drawn out cutscenes. They usually had a couple minute cutscenes here and there, and that was it. So now that you're in control of Dante, you'll probably notice that this game has fixed camera angles, which I know some people seem to hate for whatever reason. Same with tank controls, but honestly, fixed camera angles in this game are actually really good and beautifully placed. It does obviously become a problem in some areas where the camera will shift back and forth, but for the most part, it works just fine. As long as you aren't playing on the harder difficulties where you'll be fighting 1v2s with each boss, since not only will you be fighting the boss, but you'll also be fighting their teammate, the shitty fucking camera, which will cuck you quite often, especially on bosses like Griffon 3, which on Dante Must Die mode, for example, is just straight up torture, since you can't even see the stupid bird, since he's flying like 200 fucking feet in the air. Come on! Bro, I hate this fucking boss. Like, I hate this boss. I hate this fucking boss, man. I can't see because the camera's dog shit. But other than that, I do really like the fixed camera angles, since they are much more cinematic and far more creative and cool than, wow dude, the camera's just, right behind me and on my shoulders at all times. The camera also does obviously, follow you in certain areas, so it's not like these camera angles are completely static either. So as you're playing Dante, you'll notice a yellow orb, which is basically your 1-ups or your extra lives. If you die, you'll have to restart the entire level over unless you have one of these in your inventory. Yes, this is much more of an arcadey type of game, but it's not that bad since most levels aren't very long to begin with. Most of the levels on average are like 5 minutes or less, but nonetheless, this game is actually quite hard. Like, I'd even go as far to say this is like the Dark Souls of action games, because like you literally have a dodge roll, dude. So in a way, this kind of is a Souls-like, You'll also notice a blue orb up in this little tower thingy that you can like jump up into, which much like Zelda, if you collect 4 heart pieces, or in this case 4 blue orb fragments, your health bar will increase. You can also buy these at the divinity statues as full blue orbs. So you continue on your way up to the castle through some crack in the wall, and as you enter, you'll be greeted with mission 1 titled Curse of the Bloody Puppets. And there are 23 missions in this game, some very short, like not even a couple minutes long, while others can be upwards to 10 to 15 minutes. As you begin the mission, the crack that you entered through closes off through some demonic power or some shit, and you're now stuck inside the scary, spooky castle. Now that you're in the castle, this little foyer area basically serves as the game's tutorial on movement. You need to go around and collect 45 red orbs to open the door, or you can just climb up the horse statue and get the super secret red orbs and skip the busy work bullshit of going around and collecting red orbs like a bitch. Also, for a game that came out in 2001, this game holds up extremely well in the graphics department. Like, every room and environment is distinct from one another, and it has such cool and unique set pieces, such as the guy riding the horse with the Javelin or the Airplane Room. Out of all of the Devil May Cry games, this is easily the best one in terms of atmosphere and art style, especially compared to later entries like Devil May Cry 5, which really lacks in any cool levels or set pieces, and is more akin to just bloody palace for every mission, since the level design and art style in that game is peak fucking dog shit. I'm not here to shit on, DMC5, by the way. That'll be for another day. I also just want to clarify, I don't hate DMC5, but it, in my opinion, is glazed way too heavily and has far too many problems for me to even consider being the best in the series, as most of the casual fans would like to claim. It's not the best in the series, let's be honest. But anyways, point being, I love the gothic aesthetic of the original Devil May Cry and the horror atmosphere. Like, it's obviously not a horror game, but it does have a lot of horror elements, and certain areas or parts of the game can definitely be quite tense. As with all of the enemies we'll be encountering are also very horror themed, such as the Marionette puppets, which are going to be the first enemies we'll be encountering after grabbing the key. Like, out of all of the Devil May Cry games that I've played, these Marionettes are definitely my favorite fodder enemies. I just really love their designs with the puppet strings, the blood red eyes, the uncanny way they move. Like, they definitely are one of the creepier enemies in the game, not to mention they are almost kind of zombie-like. But they have several attacks, such as a ranged attack where they throw their daggers at you, standard melee attacks, some even have fucking shotguns, which can do quite a lot of damage if you get hit by it. Oh my god, holy fuck, man. An attack where they kind of glide towards you on strings at a fast speed. And also a somewhat rare attack they don't seem to do too often, which is where they shout, I think. And if you are within the range of them, you'll be hanged up and immobilized on puppet strings. You can usually Devil Trigger to break out of these attacks if you have 3 Devil Trigger, which we haven't unlocked yet in the game, but if you get hanged with the puppet strings, you're probably going to take damage if you don't have that. Now for Dante and for combat, you don't start out with a whole lot of moves or combos for combat, but you have enough to string together basic combos. You have the basic attack, which would be triangle, 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 which is your standard sword attack. Then your other 2 combos will be pressing triangle twice, then pausing afterwards, and depending on how long you pause, whether it be a very short pause, you press triangle again several more times to do a faster attack combo, which will probably be the combo you'll be using the most. You can also chain together a high time right before landing the attack, which is even quicker to send the enemy flying into the air. To do this, you need to press R1, which is how you lock on in the lock-on system, and hold backwards on the control stick. This is pretty much how you'll do aerial combos, which there really isn't many or much in Devil May Cry 1. This isn't like the later games where you can keep an enemy in the air for 20 fucking minutes air juggling them. Really, all you can do when they are in the air is jump and do a downward slash attack, or press square while locked on to use your ebony and ivory submachine gun like pistols to keep them airborne, which this is mostly just used to extend your combos. Ebony and ivory in this game are pretty dog shit, not gonna lie. They are really only good for like 1 or 2 enemy types, and the rest they might as well be pea shooters that do literally fucking nothing. As soon as you get a better gun, you'll be wanting to swap to that instead. Also, despite this game being like Resident Evil, you get infinite ammo for your guns, which is actually pretty cool since you don't need to worry about ammo or any of that bullshit. The other combo where you press triangle twice and do a longer pause is your million stabs like move, which again you can chain or cancel it into a high time, and that's pretty much the extent of your combos for now. But the combat is extremely smooth and flows together really well. For the most part, if you get hit or take damage, it's on you, like you screwed up, like it's your fault. You also get a dodge roll, which again is tied to the lock-on, which you'll press in combination with the X button in the direction on the control stick. If you hold left or right, you'll dodge to the left or right, and if you hold backwards, you'll do a backflip, which is really useful in most situations to get out of an enemy's or a boss's, attack range. But yeah, now that we have the key, much like in Resident Evil fashion, or even Metroidvania fashion, you need to backtrack to where the locked door was to use this key on. I know some people might not like backtracking, or they think backtracking is lazy on the developers' parts, but honestly, I really like it, especially in cases where you're going back and forth opening new areas and further exploring a large mansion, castle, or area. Devil May Cry is mostly linear though. You'll get a hint at the start of each mission guiding you on where you need to go, but for the most part, there really isn't too many options in getting lost or stuck. You're in a castle, but the key keys you'll get to unlock new rooms are only used for one specific door per key, unlike in something like Resident Evil where you'll get a key and have options to go to multiple different rooms with that, single key. It's not like that in Devil May Cry. But yeah, Devil May Cry does backtracking in a really cool way, as we'll see later on in the game, and it reuses the areas in a great way and to a great effect. Like a little bit later in the game, for example, you'll be chased down the hallway you came down from by a big giant, lava spider, and as he is chasing you, he's destroying and breaking like the pillars on like the side of the walls, and as you come back, those pillars remain broken, which is, obviously pretty cool. But anyways, you use the key on the door and you'll be in a room with an airplane, and again, Devil May Cry 1 does this cool thing where nearly every room will be useful or have some relevance at some point in the game, such as this airplane that you see right here, or that horse statue that I was talking about earlier where the guy is riding on the horse with the javelin. Even that will have an importance like later on. The airplane won't really have anything to do for a long time, but it does have its importance. So you head down to the basement by hitting this weird circular thing on the wall, which as you attack it, the symbols will glow, and once they all glow, it'll activate. So you go down to the basement, kill some marionette dolls, come back up to kill even more, and then you're done with the mission. At the end of each mission, you'll be given a rank based on your skills and shit, and you'll either get a D for dog shit or S for stylish. You can obviously also get ranks in between those, including C, B, and A. Now you want to get a good rank since you'll be rewarded with more red orbs, which is your currency, and at the end of each mission, you can access the store, or you can find one of the divinity statues around the levels to spend your hard-earned red orbs on. But anyways, your ranking is affected by your time, which each level has a different time or speed you need to clear it in, red orbs collected, damage taken, the secret missions that you've completed, and the items you've used. Which, unlike in later games, you don't get to see your individual ranks for each of these. You just get one solid rank, such as in Devil May Cry 3, for example. You could get a S in time, B in damage, A in items used, etc., and then it would combine these together or average them out for your grade. So in Devil May Cry 1, each of these categories rewards different points that are all behind the scenes, which you don't ever get to see, and depending on how many points you got is what grade you'll obtain. This game is definitely one of the harder games, if not the hardest in the series, to actually get all S ranks on each mission, since you can't actually replay missions in this game. So if you want to get S's on all of the missions, for example, you're just gonna have to keep restarting the level until you eventually get the S rank. Replaying missions wasn't introduced until like Devil May Cry 2. Yes, Devil May Cry 2 got a lot of shit wrong, but it did introduce a lot of staples into the franchise, like Mission Select, for example, Bloody Palace, or elements of Trickster like wall running, elements of Gunslinger, and also playable character Trish. But yeah, it's not really worth going for all S ranks, especially on the harder difficulties, unless there's just something wrong with you, since it's incredibly hard.
Come on. You just get stunned. You literally just get stunned and you can't do anything.
And it's not like you really get anything for doing that. You also have a style meter while in combat, which tells you how well you are doing. If you take damage, it obviously goes down, but if you keep dealing damage or spamming the rocket launcher, you'll easily get S style meter. My favorite and go-to combo for S is literally just Stinger, rocket launcher, Stinger, rocket launcher, Stinger, rocket launcher. Like, it's extremely fucking broken. So at the start of mission 2 is the Judge of Death, and in this mission you'll be getting one of the coolest swords in the series, Alastor, which is a sword that has lightning powers and shit. But you remember when I said that it wasn't the last time Dante would be stabbed? Well, he gets stabbed once again by Alastor, and it knocks him the fuck out for like a second, but he awakens and rises up, and instead of just, pulling out the blade like a normal person would, Dante instead says fuck that shit and allows the entire sword to go through his body, hilt included, which is quite badass, not gonna lie. Like, if we're gonna keep it a buck like 93, it's quite badass. He then does some moves to show off, and now you have Alastor, which is basically just a straight up upgrade from Force Edge, your previous piece of shit sword that you're never gonna fucking touch ever again. Alastor also gives you Devil Trigger, which you'll start with 3 runes of Devil Trigger starting off, which you'll need to buy more runes with red orbs to buy purple orbs, which will increase your Devil Trigger. And you need at least 3 runes to activate Devil Trigger. Now that you have Alastor as well, you'll be able to buy and access brand new moves such as Stinger level 1 and 2, which should be probably your top priority, since Stinger allows you to hold down the lock-on button and then press the attack button plus forward to do a super fast plunge attack towards enemies. This is a great move to cover distance for enemies further away, as with being able to just traverse much quicker in the levels as long as there's no like enemies around. Stinger level 1 is a very short plunge attack, while Stinger level 2 gives you much more mobility and makes it much, quicker. There's also Round Trip, which allows you to hold down the attack button to throw your sword like a boomerang. It's pretty much useless in my opinion and should be the last one that you buy. Honestly, you don't even need to buy it at all, let's be honest. There's also Air Hike, which is another top priority move you should get, which is quite expensive. It's like 2,000 red orbs, but it's well worth it since it grants the ability to double jump, which gives you much more mobility and much more room to like dodge attacks midair. It'll also be much easier to access, certain areas or do certain platforming sections, being able to jump twice. Then there are 2 moves exclusive to your Devil Trigger, that being Air Raid, which will allow you to become airborne and fly, which is extremely good, especially on the lower difficulties. It allows you to shoot out electricity, which is extremely powerful on the lower difficulties, and it's even quite strong on the higher difficulties, as it completely shreds through most bosses' health. You can also use Air Raid to get a lot of the harder or secret red orbs, which you'll probably need to use it to get. And then last but not least being Vortex, which basically just allows you to do a spinning vortex like move, which does a shit ton of damage and is also extremely fast. However, I'm not really a big fan of this move, honestly. I usually just use Air Raid instead. While in Devil Trigger, you both move faster and attack faster. You will also slowly regain your lost health as long as you aren't playing on Dante Must Die mode. Then you don't get any lost health back because that mode solely exists to make you bash your head against a fucking wall. But yeah, since Devil Trigger gives you your health back or slowly regenerates it, it's a great way to recover health if like the enemies are being stingy and not dropping you any green orbs, which green orbs are basically the health orbs that give you your health back. Attacking enemies will slowly recover your Devil Trigger, and taunting enemies gives you like 3 or so runes if I remember correctly, which is quite broken. Also, while in the shop, you can buy actual consumable items like Devil Stars, Vital Stars, Holy Waters, Untouchables, blue orbs, purple orbs, and even yellow orbs. Devil Stars are used to regain your Devil Trigger. It gives 5 runes, and you have a soft cap of 10, meaning once you have 10, you can't buy anymore. Now, you can actually have more than 10 or whatever the limit is for whichever item you want by finding the items in the missions, because it's only a cap on the amount that you can buy, not the amount that you can find. Throughout the areas in game, you'll come across Devil Stars, Holy Waters, Untouchables, and yellow orbs. A lot of them are hidden, but if you find them while at the cap, you can hold more than the amount that you can buy. Which, if you're attempting to beat this game on Dante Must Die mode, for example, which is the hardest difficulty, not just in the game, but also in the entire DMC franchise, probably also hands down one of the hardest difficulties in any games ever fucking made, and that's not even like an exaggeration. Like, if you think Dark Souls or Elden Ring is hard, then you haven't fought Legendary Dark Knight 3 on Dante Must Die mode.
He was always this big, I don't remember. Bro, like 1 hit! 1 fucking hit! Oh my god, 1 fucking hit that does that all your health.
Or Nightmare 3.
Oh my god, he's already sending out this fucking boomerang bullshit. Oh my god, why does it... Oh my god, why does it do so much fucking damage?
But yeah, the easiest way to beat this incredibly difficult game mode is by just saving up all your items for Dante Must Die mode. You can only ever hold just 1 Vital Star though, which these are the healing items which will restore 1 bar of life, which is half of your life. Holy Water is extremely powerful as it basically just acts as a nuke and clears out all of the enemies on the screen and takes a large chunk of the boss's life. Well, at least on the easier difficulties it does. On the harder ones, it'll only do a fraction of the boss's life. Untouchables are basically the most broken item in the entire franchise, franchise, and if you save them all for Dante Must Die mode once you get to this difficulty, you'll probably have close to 10 untouchables, which should be enough to cheese the harder bosses like Mundus 2 or Nightmare 3 with, infinite health and infinite devil trigger. It basically gives you invincibility for like 30 seconds and also infinite devil trigger. You can actually farm these once you beat hard mode and replay the game on normal, and you can get like 3 or 4 throughout each run, including also I think like maybe like 4 or 5 devil stars and multiple holy waters. But yeah, don't waste your items on normal or hard unless you don't plan on playing Dante Must Die mode. Also, don't waste your red orbs or yellow orbs, which are the extra lives, since on repeat playthroughs, all blue orb fragments throughout the game that you have previously collected on your other runs or lower difficulties will become yellow orbs, which should stock you up on a bunch for hard and DMD mode. But anyways, now that you have Alastor, go into the next room, grab the rusty key from the creepy looking painting, and make sure to break this table to get the shotgun, which is a huge upgrade compared to Ebony and Ivory, which like I stated before is complete dog shit, except on like 1 or 2 enemies. The shotgun basically does high damage, and it sends enemies flying. It will interrupt their attacks, at least for the weaker fodder enemies, like the Marionettes. This is good for when they are readying up attack. You can just shoot them from a distance to interrupt it, or even if you're like nearby. The shotgun is also great on the upcoming new enemies you'll be fighting. So you head back down the hallway you came from with the rusty key to open the door to some courtyard area with a water fountain and a spooky looking lion statue with like some purple magical barrier surrounding it. So you then go up the stairs to the room on top, grab the staff of judgment. Now you are back in the room where you got the rusty key from the creepy painting and the shotgun, and as you are leaving, the ghost from the painting comes out of it, which are Sin Scissors, and one of the cooler and more spooky looking enemies in the game. They have a creepy looking mask who have a high pitched laugh and oversized scissors that they will cut you with. Like, the enemy designs in this game are just peak. All of the enemies are so cool looking and unique, but basically that shotgun you got in this room is quite good on the Sin Scissors, as when you attack them they'll block it and it'll deflect your weapon. If you go near their face with the shotgun out and blast them with it, the shotgun will literally one-shot them. Since they are ghosts, they also travel through walls, which can be kind of annoying to kill them sometimes, to be honest, when they're literally just, camping in the fucking wall all day and they won't come out, and that they can attack you while they're inside the wall with their giant, like, oversized scissors. So after you defeat those ghosts and you leave the room, you'll see a bunch of tiny little lava spiders coming from the wall, which you'll need to use the Staff of Judgment on. And these little spiders are foreshadowing the next mission where you'll be fighting Phantom, the large lava spider, and the first boss of the game. But anyways, you go through the cathedral, across the bridge, then return, get struck by lightning and fall into the ocean, fight some disembodied skulls, which the shotgun is great at killing them since it one-shots them. Once you get the grenade launcher, you'll literally never touch the shotgun since it's just inferior, unless you are in this one area or fighting Phantom and got eaten. But anyways, as we return back, we'll meet Phantom, and I do love the little dialogue exchanges between Dante and the boss demons he fights.
Surprise. I hope for your sake you got something inside that big body of
But yeah, Phantom, even on normal, and especially in your first playthrough, can be quite difficult. He's also going to be harder since you're more than likely only going to have 3 devil trigger, maybe 4 at the most, and not a whole lot of health at this point. He hits quite hard too, like you'll probably be dead within 5 or so hits, and he has quite a lot of health, not to mention he also has armor. This shit is like old school Monster Hunter where all your attacks would bounce, so you either need to jump on his body and try to get some hits off without falling off, do basic jump attacks which have iframes, attack his head, or essentially parry his fireballs by timing your attacks perfectly to hit his fireballs back at him. This boss basically tells you to get good scrub, and you'll encounter quite a few sections in this game like that where you're basically forced to learn the boss's moveset and attack patterns if you want to, actually beat the game. But yeah, cool boss, obviously. You fight each boss, which there's only 4 bosses, of which you fight each 3 times. Each time they usually get some new moves or attacks to switch up the fight a little bit and to make it harder. Also, before you leave this room and finish the mission, if you head back outside from the room that you came from, there are 3 blue orbs back outside where the bridge is, which I'm not going to provide a walkthrough for literally everything, obviously, but the reason I'm saying this is because most of the secrets and hidden stuff you'll need to backtrack after certain points in the game. If you jump back into the water, for example, you'll be greeted with Secret Mission 1, which there will be a total of 12 secret missions, each one giving you a blue orb fragment, and most of them are different, such as stepping on enough spiders before the time limit ends, collecting a blue orb piece high in the air, defeating multiple shadows, and in the case of Secret Mission 1, it's one of the hardest if you don't know what you're doing, killing a Sin Scissor in one shot through its weak spot, which is basically attacking them as they are readying an attack, then going to the side of their face while they are staggered and shotgunning them in the face. It's quite easy once you figure it out, but it can be quite annoying if you don't realize how to do it and when you're first trying to attempt to do it. But yeah, this is definitely one of the harder secret missions. You also have to do this while underwater while your health is draining. At least it doesn't completely kill you, so that's good, I guess. But if you do die in a secret mission, you do still lose a life. So once you clear that and you get the blue orb from the secret mission, then you go on to the next level. So at the start of the next mission, you are chased by Phantom. You go back to the courtyard room with the lion statue, use the pride of the lion that you got from the previous mission killing Phantom, destroy the statue, and then you're greeted with one of the most annoying enemy types in the entire game, the shadows, which basically how these guys work is you need to shoot them enough to reveal this little orb thing. Then once you deal enough damage to this orb thing, they'll turn red and try to chop suey bomb you. So you basically just need to run away or stay high up in the air. Remember when I said Ebony and Ivory are also only good for like 1 or 2 enemies? Well, this is one of them. Basically just spam the fire button, mix in jumps and fire in the air, since if you're in the air, you're probably less likely to get damaged. Also, when you're firing in the air, you fall down extremely slowly and it extends your air time. They have a few attacks, one where they try to poke you, which has a really long range. You can actually jump on them when they do this and deal extra damage. They have this attack where they send like a projectile at you, an attack where they try to chomp at you, and this other attack when their orb is out that sends out spiky things from the ground, which usually the best way to avoid this is to just use Stinger on them, since it'll move them and you'll often avoid damage. Air raid is also good on these enemies, but you probably don't have air raid unlocked at this point, but if you do, that's usually one of the best ways and easiest ways to kill phantoms is just, you know, jumping in the air, activating air raid, and then just shooting them with your electricity. So you head into the next room, which is this really tall room, and grab this really cool looking sword, which I always thought it was lame that you couldn't use this as like a weapon or something, but it's basically just a key. Use the sword in the bedroom and switch it out for a melancholy soul. Then your mirrored self from the mirror comes out of the mirror, and it is the legendary Dark Knight, and this is the next boss. Which he isn't that hard, but again, on the later difficulties, he becomes a pain in the ass, where he has like 1,000,000 hit points, and where he'll kill you in like 2 to 3 hits, but he's extremely easy. All you need to do is have some Devil Trigger, run up to him while he is blocking, attack a few times, and rinse and repeat. Usually when you're in Devil Trigger and you do this, he's just kind of stuck blocking or like stun locked. Otherwise, if you do try to attack him normally without Devil Trigger, your attacks will bounce since he'll deflect it, and you'll need to just do a backflip or roll, then attack afterwards, usually by, you know, doing a jump attack or stinger towards him. So after defeating him, you'll get a little cutscene where he grabs Dante by the neck, but let's go because he sees that he's wearing an amulet, and it seems to be he's under some sort of control or influence by something or someone else, as you can see that he is trying to fight it off. As of right now, we don't know exactly why this is or what this means, but we'll obviously learn later in the game why he did this. The next mission is really easy and incredibly short, like not even 2 minutes long. All you need to do is defeat a single phantom, then run back to the tall room and jump all the way down to the bottom room and insert the melancholy soul into the door, and that's literally it. You also do want to be fast, as you literally have a time limit of 2.5 minutes. However, this starting room does have a blue orb fragment and also an untouchable, so make sure you grab those before you leave. But yeah, mission 6 is basically in the basement, and you'll be needing to fight the bugs, which I think are only down in this one little section of the game. They're pretty much a joke though. The bugs don't have much health, and you can just shotgun blast them to the face and it exterminates those bugs, you know, quite effectively, not gonna lie. There's also this red orb stone, which are basically these things where you need to hit them, and the more you hit them, the more red orbs it'll drop. But anyways, at the end of this level, you'll be fighting one of the most annoying enemies in the game, aside from the phantoms, the death scissors, which you'll always fight these motherfuckers in enclosed, tight little spaces. They are similar to Sin Scissors, just with a shit ton more health and a shit ton harder. Honestly though, they really aren't that hard once you learn that you can deal a shit ton of damage to them by just jumping high up into the air and then downward slashing, you know, back down and just spamming that attack. Air raid is also really good on them on the lower difficulties, but if this is the first time you are fighting them, they can be quite a bitch to kill, since much like the Sin Scissors, they go through the walls and they have this attack where they go back and forth charging at you at like Mach speed, and you need to either like dodge out of the way at the right time or try to jump over the attack. You can also deflect their attacks by swinging your sword much like Sin Scissors, then doing a follow-up jump attack for really good damage. The shotgun or ebony and ivory are pretty good on him as well. But yeah, I haven't even talked about the music yet, but usually when you're fighting one of these mini boss like enemies like the shadows or these death scissors here, the soundtrack will play with these sirens, and it's just really good, honestly. Like, it's definitely really tense, especially when you hear the soundtrack, you know? I don't think the soundtrack is nearly as good as Devil May Cry 3, but it's definitely up there though. The soundtrack consists of a lot of rock combined with like some techno elements. The Dark Knight boss also has this really cool soundtrack playing with like an organ, I think. I don't know, but it sounds amazing also. The game even has its own Resident Evil save room theme, which also sounds great. But yeah, all around the music is obviously, you know, really fucking solid. The next mission is another really quick one and is similar to mission 5 with the time limit, but this time instead of having a time limit, your health just drains. You'll also be chased by Phantom again at the start of the mission. You can also kill him while he is chasing you, by the way, which he does drop a good amount of red orbs, so if you do decide to kill him, which there really isn't a reason not to kill him, especially on normal or hard, where he has significantly reduced health. There's also Phantom 2, which most people I don't even think know about, but if you go back to the courtyard area with the water fountain and where you fought your first shadow, Phantom will be just chilling there and you can fight him in that room. Most people probably don't even know about this though, but yeah, I guess he wanted to cool off in the fountain after getting his ass kicked, I don't know. But yeah, after beating Phantom for like the 4th time at this point, you head back to the bedroom with the mirror and use the item you got in the sewers on the sun door thing. And after that, you're going to have to fight Phantom for the 5th time, but really this is just Phantom 2 if we don't count the optional encounters. And the last time we fight
Finally! I was getting tired of playing your childish games.
Honestly, he's probably going to be even easier this time. Since you've been fighting him a bunch at this point, you probably have learned his moves to some extent. Not to mention, you'll probably also have more Devil Trigger and health, so this fight shouldn't be too hard. When you finish Phantom this time, he falls through the glass and onto the statue where the guy is riding the horse with the javelin, and Phantom lands directly onto it and dies. But yeah, it's a really cool cutscene, and as Phantom is looking up, he sees that Dante is Sparda, or so he thought.
Right. I'm his son, Dante. Sweet dreams.
After this, you get the grenade launcher, the best gun in the game, and it is completely busted, so much better than Lady's shitty Kalina Ann. Lady fanboys can cope and see. Okay, Kalina Ann isn't that bad, but in comparison to the grenade launcher, it's dog shit, let's be honest. This is the only gun you'll ever need to use for the rest of the game, except for like specific enemy encounters like the shadows with Ebony and Ivory, or the floating skulls for Nightmare if you get eaten. But after this, you'll be finally leaving the castle and heading out. You'll encounter some new enemies called Blades, which are lizard-like enemies. You'll encounter both on land and also in the water. They can sometimes be annoying to kill since they do have a lot of health, but you can usually just spam grenade launcher and stinger to take them out quite quickly, or swap to Ifrit, which we'll be receiving in the next room. So we do some platforming and obtain Ifrit, a brand new melee weapon, which is hand-to-hand combat essentially. It has its own devil trigger moves and powers, and you can actually quick swap to it if you press R3. However, there's a bit of a transformation, meaning when you switch to it, if you're near any enemies, there's a chance you might get hit. It's best to just equip these weapons in the main menu. It also has brand new moves to purchase from divinity statues, but basically Ifrit is a lot more slower than Alastor. It has the attribute of fire instead of electricity, and instead of pausing to do different combos, you instead hold the attack button and can charge up each attack. It lacks the speed and mobility of Alastor, but makes up for it with its raw power. Jump kick is basically Ifrit's stinger, which instead of holding lock on and then pressing up plus attack to plunge towards far away enemies, jump kick instead allows you to jump up into the air and do a downwards diagonal kick towards the enemies. There is kick 13, which is the same button presses as stinger, but it's not really used the same way as stinger is. Ifrit also has magma drive, which is its version of high time. Rolling blaze, it's really expensive at 3450 orbs. However, every time you jump, you're surrounded in flames, which deals damage and is good at dodging or getting rid of projectiles. Plus, you know, it looks really fucking cool. Ifrit unfortunately doesn't get a air hike or double jump, so instead it gets rolling blaze, which obviously and honestly it's quite good to be fair, but I honestly prefer air hike. Ifrit also has two moves similarly to Alastor, which are only for devil trigger, that being meteor, which allows you to shoot out fireballs, so it's Ifrit's version of air raid. However, you do not get to fly with it. Then there's also Inferno, which I think might be the most expensive move in the game for about 4,850 red orbs, but it's well worth it, which allows you to do a jump stomp ability which sends out a huge AoE of flames that does really good damage. It pretty much will like 1 to 2 shot most enemies. I obviously prefer Alastor though in most scenarios. However, Ifrit can be fun, and there are certain enemies where Ifrit is just, you know, ideal or just much better to use, such as the frost enemies, which like the name implies, which are frost demons similar to Blades, as they are also lizards, but they have frost moves. They are really strong and annoying if you don't use Ifrit. Also, speaking about platforming, to get up to Ifrit, I just want to say the platforming in this game really isn't that bad, despite what, you know, others may claim. Yeah, certain parts such as the bridge section can be kind of annoying to platform your way across, but if you line yourself up and just press the jump button, it's really not that hard or that bad. It might honestly just be a fucking skill issue if we're gonna be honest, okay? You are also unable to fall off of cliffs or platforms by just holding the directional stick, unlike in Devil May Cry 3, for example, where you can fall off of a platform by getting too close to the edge. Platforming in DMC 1 is just much better than it is in 3, but I honestly don't have many problems with it, and I think it's completely fine. It's just pace breakers or to offer some variety within the levels. That's one of my biggest complaints with Devil May Cry, for example, is the game really has zero variety in the level design. Like I said before, it really is just bloody palace for each mission, since none of the levels, except maybe a few of them, offer anything unique or interesting. There aren't really any environmental hazards in DMC 5 that you need to be wary for and not get too close to, you know, or you'll take damage. Again, there are some here and there, obviously. I'm not saying that there isn't fucking any, but it's not like in DMC 1 or 3 or even 4. I like the variety in DMC 1 with the light platforming, dodging spikes and obstacles, solving basic puzzles, and the backtracking. I really don't understand where the sentiment of, oh my god, dude, you know, the Devil May Cry is only supposed to be about the combat, dude. How dare they put fucking platforming or jumping in my fucking combat game, in my Devil May Cry, dude, even though it's been there since the fucking beginning. Yes, the combat is good, but there needs to be more than just rooms full of enemies to fight. There needs to be some pace breakers and some variety within the level design. Otherwise, it just gets fucking bland and stale, in my opinion. But anyways, as you head back out, you meet Griffon, the boss of the outside world, or Act 2, I guess.
Are you the human, the son of Sparda who challenges the darkness, Mundus?
Block off, Featherface, or you can stick around and find out the hard way.
The first Griffon fight is basically just a meme or a joke, since you literally don't even have to fight him. You can just go over to the door and light the flame with Ifrit and completely avoid him. Like, even on the harder difficulties like hard or Dante must die mode, for example, you don't even have to enter the room where you get Ifrit, which honestly is pretty cool and funny. But Griffon 1 really isn't that hard, especially on normal. All you have to do is just spam taunt with some grenade launcher spam until you get enough devil trigger for air raid, then fly up in the sky and shoot electricity at him, completely melting and draining his health bar. He's really simple and far easier than Phantom. All he really does is just shoot out electricity, of which is really easy to dodge. There's also these air hike platforms that you can jump onto so you can get higher up to either attack him or just shoot at him. He does this Basil Geese bomber move, which basically just flies towards you, dropping a bunch of electricity balls. It's a fine fight, I guess, but he definitely gets harder in the next 2 encounters. So you head to the woods and encounter a brand new enemy type named the Fetish, which, yeah, I don't know why they decided to go with the name Fetish, but that's what they chose, I guess. They are basically just stronger versions of the Marionettes, but instead of having daggers and shotguns, they have the power of fire and shit, and they can launch a flamethrower attack at you. They are pretty much a joke of an enemy though at this point, since you'll obviously have the grenade launcher, and the grenade launcher just annihilates any fodder enemy in its fucking path. And, like, not only that, but like the grenade launcher also has just insane fucking AoE. It literally just destroys any fodder enemy on literally any difficulty. It's beyond fucking busted. All you need to do is the grenade launcher stinger combo. Obviously, if you want to be more stylish, you can mix in normal moves as well, but that's definitely the most efficient strategy to take them out. Not to mention, Devil May Cry, despite having a style meter, you don't really have to be stylish at all in order to get S rankings. But yeah, that's definitely the most efficient strategy, or at least for me, I guess. I didn't look up any strategy guides or speedrunner strats. Most of the shit I learned is from playing the game when I was a kid. But speaking of the woods, which I brought up earlier, I just really love the environments the game has to offer. It's almost like we're in Silent Hill or some shit with how foggy it is. So you eventually get to an area with an orb with 2 branching paths, and what you need to do is guide the orb and follow it. The orb will take control or possess enemies along the way, and you'll need to kill the enemy it goes inside to release the orb. You eventually reach some building with some ground spiders resembling phantoms, which are called Kyklops. This is the first time you'll be seeing them if you haven't done the secret mission back in the basement where you need to kill them with friendly fire. They're pretty similar to Phantom though, and instead of shooting out fireballs, they shoot out rocks or some shit. They also have the hardened skin and a decent amount of health. You don't fight them too often though. There's really only like a couple areas in the game where you even encounter them, and I'm pretty sure you always encounter them in pairs of 2. Next mission, you'll encounter Death Scythes, which are basically just like Death Scissors, but instead of trapping you into a small little box, they fight you in a large open area and also send out these vortex things that send you up into the air, which they will then try to combo off of you and damage you from it. Pretty much the same strategy exists for these guys, just activate Devil Trigger and Air Raid or do downward slashes till they die. You then go fight Nelo, Angelo, or the Dark Knight once again for the second time. This time he's a bit harder as there's no different phases where you need to chase him like in the first fight. It's just all in one room, but yeah, he's basically just a bit harder. So mission 12, Ghost Ship, like the level name implies, takes place on a ghost ship. There's also the introduction to the underwater movement and combat. And no, I'm not talking about the underwater combat or movement back during mission 3 where the bridge collapses and your health drains while being underwater. But on this level, you actually go into first person while underwater and it controls fine. However, it does use tank controls and you also don't get to use any of your weapons underwater. Instead, you'll find a needle gun, which like the name implies, shoots out needles underwater and is used to kill the lizard blade creatures, which I brought up earlier, how they can be found on both land and in water. The needle gun also can't be used out of water either. The underwater sections are incredibly short and I honestly don't really have any problems with them. There really is only like 2 sections that take place underwater, that being the boat and also a later part in the game where you're in a flooded jail cell or prison, but that section of the game literally lasts for less than 2 minutes. Something I've never really understood and made sense to me was, why is this underwater section different from the one at the bridge? Like, why did my health drain back during mission 3 and why wasn't Dante in first person, you know? Like, he can clearly use his weapons underwater like we've seen before. Like, I don't get why all of a sudden Dante's like, nah, I don't use weapons underwater anymore. In fact, I completely switch up my perspective too. But regardless, okay, you get to the top of the ship, interact with a door and fight a Death Scissor. Then the ship starts to move as if it was a ghost ship. Ooh, spooky. Oh my god, bro, so fucking spooky. Then Griffon's ass shows up for the rematch, and here's where you'll fight Griffon 2. Griffon 2, I think, is just more aggressive with his lightning, and he also does this really annoying move where he'll send out an electricity ball onto you that will like boomerang or swing back and forth as it's attached to your body, and each time it touches you, you'll either take damage or you'll be sent flying up into the fucking air. Griffon 2 on normal is honestly a cakewalk, however on hard and Dante must die mode, he can be an absolute bitch to fight. With the lightning that attaches to your body, as you'll spam that attack and you need to constantly be aware of it and either shoot at it to destroy it or jump to evade it.
This thing is so fucking annoying, the stupid fucking red thing that attaches to you. Attack the bird, Dante! The bird! The fucking bird! Target the bird, you fucking retard! Dante, you piece of shit!
Not to mention, for whatever reason, the stupid bird loves to fly 200 feet up in the sky. So you'll need to climb up to the ship's crow's nest at the very top to even see him and to even damage him most of the time. Fights like these really will piss you off and make you hate the lock-on system, as while you'll be fighting Griffon, the stupid electricity ball that attaches to you, Dante will continue to lock onto that rather than the bird. So you'll be fighting with the shitty lock-on system and won't be dealing damage half the time because Dante got dropped on the head as a baby one too many times. But yeah, what makes this fight harder is it's a much more tighter and smaller compact area compared to the first fight, which took place in a massive open field. So you defeat Griffon 2, go into the captain's quarters, grab the Staff of Hermes, and when you grab it, the ship starts to sink. And now that the entire ship has flooded and became the Titanic, you need to navigate your way off of the ship through the vents. Next mission, you'll be navigating through some torture chamber shit with like a rotating floor with spikes that come out from the holes in the ground. This area has a secret mission also, by the way, that you need to backtrack to, I believe, on the next mission. And this secret mission is actually fucking cancer, since you'll need to fight 3 shadows while the floor is rotating and moving with the spikes coming out. Well, at least all 3 of the shadows don't instantly aggro you, so you should have time to kill at least one before the 2 other decide to show up if you're quick enough. I can't imagine doing this shit on DMD mode, since I had to do it on hard and it was painful enough. Truly fucking painful. So make sure you do this secret mission on normal mode so you don't bang your head against the wall and waste all of your yellow orbs dying trying to clear the secret mission. You'll then travel across some mountainy terrain all the way back to where you fought Griffon 1 and use the Staff of Hermes that you got from the boat on these red and purple shields. You only need to go through one shield to get the pair of spears, which is used on the door to fight Griffon in the Colosseum. Whichever side you choose first will always give you the spears. However, you should go through the purple shield first, since that's how you can trigger a blue orb. Then you go through the other shield and it'll trigger a blue orb underneath where Nightmare Beta is. Nightmare Beta resembles the next boss that you fight after Griffon, and it's like a demonic gun that uses your devil trigger to charge up shots and it ricochets off of shit. It's most powerful in devil trigger form since it doesn't waste additional runes, but in all honesty, it's just not worth using when the grenade launcher exists. Like, let's be fucking honest. I honestly didn't use it at all though, since the grenade launcher is just, you know, that powerful. Just, you know, that fucking busted. However, on previous playthroughs of the game years ago and when I was a kid, I'd use Nightmare Beta a lot. But anyways, you fight Griffon 3 here, which is definitely the hardest of the 3 Griffon fights, and he has like 3 phases. The fight starts out with Griffon like low on the ground or like hovering off of the ground and flying close to it. Then after that, when he loses about 1/3 of his life, his wings break and he becomes damaged, so he has to stick to the ground. However, on hard and also DMD mode, in between these 2 phases, after he takes a little amount of damage, you'll fly up like 200 fucking feet in the sky like an absolute bitch and spam you with a shit ton of different, like, you know, bullshit electricity bolt attacks, which the camera really isn't a problem on normal, but on hard and DMD, it makes you realize just how dogshit the camera is for this boss fight, and it made me want to like pull out my fucking hair while fighting him. Like, he'll send out lines of electricity at rapid fire speed, and it's hard to judge the distance due to the dogshit camera. So what you need to do is climb up the Colosseum and try to shoot him or attack him as much as possible up there until he enters the next phase. This boss is the definition of misery on DMD, like dying in 2 to 3 hits during a 5+ minute fight where one screw up will cost you your life and you only get 1 vital star, which only heals you for like half your life. Yeah, you're gonna have to get good for this fight or cheese him with some untouchables if you're stupid enough to waste them on him instead of Nightmare 3 or Mundus 2. After defeating Mundus, you'll trigger a cutscene where you can see Mundus in the sky and Griffon is asking to receive power to finish off Dante, but Mundus is like, nah, fuck you, Featherface, you failed me 1 too many times. But I guess in this case it was, you know, 3 too many times, but you know, that's besides the point. And he sends out a bunch of lightning down to finish off Griffon, which is, you know, one of his own people, which really just goes to show how ruthless and powerful Mundus, you know, truly is. Trish also decides to show up finally and doesn't really say much other than to congratulate Dante.
Maybe it was too easy for you.
Mundus.
His heinous ways make me sick, killing even his own, like they were nothing. He's the one that took the life of my mother, my brother, and Shirley. My mother used to always tell me that my father was a man who fought for the weak. He had courage and a righteous heart. In the name of my father, I will kill Mundus.
But yeah, now you'll be heading back to the castle, and this is when the backtracking really shines in my opinion, and I love how it's done in this game. I do also love how games or movies start out in the morning or during daylight, and how during the end of the game or film, it'll be nighttime to like show the passing of time. When you entered into the shielded rooms back before you fought Griffon, it was still daylight out, but when you came out of the building, it became nighttime, and instead of Kyklops and Blades being outside during the nighttime, it's now Sin Scissors patrolling the area. It's now like pitch black out, and so is the castle when you return back to it. It's kind of like in Dead Rising 1 when the mall shuts down at night and all the lights go off. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, you know? Another classic certified banger from fucking Capcom. Back when Capcom still made great games and featured hot and beautiful female characters like Isabella. Sorry Jessica bros, but like, you know, the bootyful Latina Isabella is just better, you know, cope and seethe, you know? But yeah, I also forgot to mention when you went through the shielded doors, you obtained Luminite, which basically acts as a flashlight, or it illuminates the area around Dante. So you'll be using that to see in the dark, spooky castle from now on. Also, when you come back through the castle during nighttime, everything has been shifted and changed, which I think is also, you know, really cool. I love when games do this sort of thing where they reuse previous areas or levels but heavily alter them or change them. Kind of like in Ocarina of Time when you become Adult Link and the world has been destroyed, or Final Fantasy VI, again, when the world gets destroyed, or even something like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which will completely turn the castle upside down, and you'll have to re-navigate the entire castle, but now you know it's upside down. I love shit like this and wish more modern games did cool and interesting things like this. But yeah, doors that used to be here are now gone. It's like, is your mind playing tricks on you? You could have sworn there was a door or elevator here before, but you know, now it's gone. Like, do you have that Joe Biden dementia? Is that like shit kicking in? Or are you just like misremembering? Like, I don't know. You'll also encounter another new enemy type here called the Plasma, which I do love how every new enemy type in the game is given a cool little intro cutscene before you even fight them. I think the only ones who don't have a cutscene though are the Kyklops, but I could be wrong. But they basically have two forms, a bat form and a human form, where they copy Dante's moves and weapons. So if you have Alastor out, for example, they'll use Alastor, and if you have Ifrit out, for example, they'll use Ifrit. They also use these beam attacks and can even multiply when you strike them with melee attacks. They really aren't too hard. You can literally use the same strategy that you've been using throughout the entire game since you've got the grenade launcher on them, which is just stinger, grenade launcher, stinger, grenade launcher on them. So you make your way back to the cathedral where you first fought Phantom, and now there's a big puddle on the ground. You interact with it, and now you gotta fight Nightmare, one of the hardest bosses in the game. Basically, what you gotta do to defeat him is by hitting the things on the wall to turn the lights on. After doing that, his orb will eventually come out, and you can start dealing damage to him, kind of like the shadows that you've been fighting prior. Which you aren't going to have much time to do this since the light will only be on for like 20 seconds max, so you're going to need to constantly go back to the wall to attack it to relight the room. You also don't want the lights to go off either, as when it does, he can't take damage, but he can also basically eat you. When he eats you, you'll be sent into some other world where you'll need to kill some skulls and then a weaker version of either Phantom, Griffon, or Nelo Angelo, depending on whether this is Nightmare 1, 2, or 3. On normal and hard, it does a decent amount of damage to Nightmare when you are eaten, and you'll also get a green orb. However, on DMD mode, it will basically deal almost nothing, and you'll get a green orb that will restore like an inch of your health, like literally just an inch of your health. So on the lower difficulties, the strat might be to intentionally get eaten, but on DMD mode, that's the last thing that you want to happen. Nightmare also has a shit ton of annoying attacks from these floating orbs shooting out projectiles like machine guns, these black things that'll damage you. He'll also steal your devil trigger. He has this annoying stab attack, which is incredibly hard to dodge or even see coming since it pretty much just comes out instantly, and I don't even think this move has a telegraph.
What even hit me? Like, did that somehow fucking hit me?
You just basically never need to be by his side, I think, because that's usually when he uses it, if you're on his side. I could be wrong, but I think you just kind of gotta predict when you think this annoying stab comes out. And he also has a laser beam move, which will last for a few seconds, and he'll like rotate to try and hit you. And if it does, not only will you take a lot of damage, but it can also freeze you. Then on top of this, he has another move where he sends out like this fucking boomerang, which will literally just completely melt your health. For Nightmare 1 and 2, you can hit the things things on the wall and illuminate the room before the boss fight even starts. And the best way to damage Nightmare is with Ifrit and only use charged attacks, like only use the fully charged attacks. If you don't do this and use fast moves or attacks like Alastor, he's going to build up a shit ton of defense, since from what I understand is he gains damage negation each time you strike him, and the charged Ifrit attacks deal the most damage with the fewest amount of hits. Obviously, you don't need to do this on normal or hard, but on DMD when he has 5 million fucking hit points, you are almost required to use Ifrit. You also want and need rolling blaze so that you can dodge the projectiles by jumping and having the flame effect from the jump destroy the projectiles. Nightmare 1, you gotta deal with a shitty camera since you're in a cathedral and it's constantly moving. You also gotta deal with Dante being a fucking dumbass who doesn't attack the wall things unless you're literally within Dick's fucking range.
Dante, attack the fucking wall, you fucking idiot. Dante, attack the fucking wall, you idiot.
This has gotten me killed numerous times. For whatever reason, Dante rather lock onto Nightmare, which is invulnerable, instead of attacking the target, which is the wall, which is literally 2 feet from him. The lock-on system in this fight is horrendous, so after defeating Nightmare, you can go across the bridge and use the Staff of Hermes to activate 2 Super Mario 64 painting levels. You then hop into the one on the left side, climb up the tower, jump into another painting with a picture of the moon, and fight the Frost, which are basically just blades but covered in ice, and way stronger obviously. Just equip Ifrit though and Devil Trigger to take them out quickly. You then go to this dragon or dinosaur room and reflect his fireballs back at him, rotate the crank on the wall to get the Quicksilver, head back to the door to fight Dark Knight 3.
A man with guts and honor. I like that. But it's a shame you serve Mundus.
The hardest version of him. Dante also claims he is a man with guts and honor, but honestly, if we're going to be honest, okay, I'm not sure about that one, since this motherfucker will literally attack you the moment you climb up during the first fight. Doesn't seem too honorable or fair to me personally, but you know, that's just me.
The fuck is that game called? I don't even... Look at that bullshit!
He's basically just harder this time and will now send out magical swords which can literally stun lock you and just instantly fucking kill you.
Come on. You just get stunned. You literally just get stunned and you can't do anything.
To defeat him, use the same strategy you've been using of activating DT and just spamming triangle, triangle, pause, triangle over and over till you defeat him, because when you have Devil Trigger and you do this, it usually just stun locks him and he can't do anything, and it's hard for him to like actually break out of the attack. Then he'll drop the same amulet that you have when you defeat him.
Vergil, Dante, happy birthday. Wow!
Trish, Vergil has been defeated. You know what you must do. Now go.
Yes, master.
And we find out this is Vergil, which is basically Dante's twin brother. But what happened was between the events of DMC 1 and 3, which 3 is the prequel to this game, by the way, or takes place before it, Vergil fights Mundus and loses, so he basically becomes like a prisoner of Mundus and becomes Nelo Angelo, or the legendary Dark Knight. And that's why back when we first fought him, when he grabbed us and saw our amulet, he let go, since he's like fighting the mind control or however the fuck this shit works. You also get the Sparda sword after defeating Vergil, but it's not really worth using since you don't get access to Devil Trigger while using it. You also don't get Air Hike. Other than that, it's basically just the same as Alastor with like all of the same moves pretty much, except it does a good amount more damage and it also has much better reach. But again, since it can't use Devil Trigger, it's not really worth using, let's be honest. You then go through a portal which brings you back to the second painting room and go into a flooded prison or cell area, which in all honesty is quite creepy. Like with the dead bodies and just the low poly looking textures. You also fight some send scissors while underwater, which is also kind of weird. You then grab the Philosopher's Egg, fight Nightmare 2, which is the same as Nightmare 1 for the most part, but this time you're in a courtyard area in a smaller room, which honestly in a way makes the fight easier despite, you know, the fact that the room is smaller, which you'd think it would probably make the fight more difficult, but it really makes it easier because the camera is more focused, since you don't gotta deal with the, you know, shitty camera constantly changing nearly as much. You then defeat Nightmare 2, grab the elixir, head back to the bridge to jump into the painting to the right side that you didn't jump into prior, and enter this dream world area, which is basically the bedroom from when you fought Dark Knight 1. Grab the Philosopher's Stone and fight the Nobodies, which might be one of the creepiest enemies in the game. They're kind of like monkeys and they make like these weird, you know, like monkey like screeches or sounds. They also have like these weird creepy eyes on their bodies that they will throw at you kind of like a fucking grenade or bomb. They have some basic attacks, and if you don't deal enough damage to them after a certain amount of time, they will grow in size and become huge. You'll need to attack them to make them smaller again. Usually when they are smaller, they aren't that hard to kill. Just use Stinger Grenade Launcher like always to kill them, and use Devil Trigger when you get it. The only thing is, once you kill them, make sure you like don't be near them when they're dead, because their body basically explodes and like kind of does damage around them until like they fully disappear. So afterwards, you use the items you gathered on the puddle where you fought Nightmare 1 and you enter the underworld. You see Trish on the ground and need to save her, so you defeat Nightmare 3.
You fool! You're so easy.
Trish, you?
Humans, what sweets. You should know better than to trust a stranger. Your presence has become a hindrance to my master's bloody scheme. Now die!
But learn that Trish was only using herself as bait to lure Dante here. So now you gotta fight Nightmare again, and he has like 20% of his life left, which Trish is also outside shooting you with fucking like electricity, which there was already a shit ton you had to manage before this during this fight, especially on Dante Must Die mode, which is incredibly fucking difficult, especially if you don't use items. Nightmare also has this cage attack where he'll entrap you with a cage if the lights are off, so again, make sure to always keep them lights on. So you then defeat phase 2, and then he gets his health back again, about I don't know, like maybe 20% this time, and you're like, god damn, how many phases does this boss have? But luckily in phase 3 his orb is always out, so you defeat Nightmare 3, get a cutscene where he's destroying the place and a large boulder falls on Trish, but Dante saves her despite the fact that she tricked him and tag teamed with Nightmare to try to kill him, but Dante saves her regardless because she looks like his mother. So afterwards he's obviously upset and mad with her, so he tells her to get out of his sight.
Dante! Dante, why did you save my life?
Because you look like my mother. Now get out of my sight. The next time we meet, it won't be like this.
Dante!
Don't come any closer, you devil! You may look like my mother, but you're nowhere close to her. You have no soul. You have the face, but you'll never have her fire!
So you're now on mission 21, almost done with the game, and this final area is truly fucking nightmare fuel. It's like you're inside a demon with the beating heart, and all of the weird shit like this level has to offer is just, you know, it's kind of creepy, let's be honest. There's also a secret mission which gives you a bangle of time, and it's actually more of an actual level than a secret mission this time, as this is the only one to be a level and not just a reused area. You even get to fight this dinosaur boss. The bangle of time you can equip to replace your devil trigger with the time stop, which I don't think works on the bosses, so I never really used it. So you navigate throughout the belly of the beast and also through these weird tentacle things, lava, and some other bullshit till you eventually get to Mundus, which is in this white room which is extremely bright and full of light. A huge contrast compared to the previous area. He captured Trish, so now you gotta fight Mundus, but in space.
Trish!
hunted. Blink, she dies.
You!
Dante!
So sad that humans will always be humans. No more. Has the Sparda blood been spoiled over the ages? Now, die!
Trish! Trish! No!
Useless scum. Failure is one thing, but taking an odd behavior like that. What is the matter? It is time to end your pitiful life.
But it's basically just Space Harrier or some, other space shoot 'em up game. You basically just shoot at him in the runes to refill your devil trigger. Use it to activate a little cutscene and deal damage, rinse and repeat. When he tries to come at you, you need to dodge spin to damage him back or just move out of the way. The controls are dog shit since like most old games, they are inverted for whatever reason. Like I genuinely don't know what the fuck the developers were thinking back in the day with inverted controls. I never understood why or who likes inverted controls. It's fucking retarded. But yeah, you just need to dodge shit and shoot him. On hard though, in DMD mode, he sends like a million things at you during this fight, and this fight can be fucking brutal if you don't save up some devil stars to cheese him. You can't use untouchables on him either, so no cheesing him with infinite health and devil trigger. So you defeat his first phase, then you fight him inside of a volcano where you're equipped with Sparda and also devil trigger, and you need to use DT to actually deal damage to him. So you attack the ruins to regain your DT and activate it to either shoot at Mundus or climb up the platforms to deal damage with physical attacks. Or if you're playing on normal, you can literally just jump in the lava while you have devil trigger active and just melt his health instantly by just meleeing him in the lava. He also sends out these smaller orbs which are basically machine guns, and there's also this lava dragon which sometimes comes out, and if you kill it you'll get some green orbs. This boss can be a bitch, especially on DMD mode, so make sure you have some untouchables still left or still saved, and just jump in the lava with invincibility and infinite devil trigger to kill him. After defeating Mundus, we get the iconic line, and Trish is now dead, RIP.
My mother risked her life for me, and now you too. I should have saved you.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
So we leave her with our amulet and also the devil sword Sparda, and much like in classic Resident Evil fashion, the final level has a time limit and you need to escape before the island explodes. So you backtrack out of this underworld area all the way back to the airplane room, but the floor caves in and you fall all the way down to the basement, and you need to fight Mundus one last time, which this final time is basically just a joke and not even really a boss, but the design is really cool though. I really like it. There's like a bunch of hands coming out of him, and also in typical Resident Evil fashion, he has like the eyes on his body. So you fight him, Trish appears, and instead of getting a rocket launcher to finish off the final boss, you instead get Trish's power. The wham and saves the day, you guys. So you basically just damage the boss now till you can activate DT, and you can shoot him channeling both Dante's power and Trish's power, through both Ebony and Ivory together. So you kill Mundus, you grab Trish, you hug her, Trish then starts to cry, but Dante says the line, he's like, devils never cry.
It looks like we have a winner.
Jackpot.
Dante, I will return, and I will rule this world.
Goodbye. And when you do come back, give my regards to my son, will ya?
Dante.
Trish, devils never cry. These tears are a gift only humans have.
So the plane from earlier, how I brought up how it had importance all the way back during the beginning of the video, now conveniently falls down, and we need to use this plane here to escape. This is literally the exact same ending as Resident Evil 4, by the way, with Leon and Ashley escaping, but instead of escaping on a boat, you escape on a plane with Dante and Trish. You even end up in the ocean as well. Like, it's literally the exact same fucking ending. So Trish becomes your sidekick and the game ends.
Let's not forget, though, the Underworld's evil is still alive. They will someday return.
There's no need to worry, right? Because the world has the legendary Dark Knight Dante and his sidekick.
Honestly, really good game, really solid game. Some even might say it's a masterpiece, and yeah, despite some of its flaws, it still holds up extremely well. Once you beat the game, you'll unlock hard mode, and you carry over your items, equipment, and health over to hard mode. You beat that, then you unlock Dante Must Die mode, and you'll also unlock the legendary Dark Knight Sparda, aka Dante's father, which basically plays just like Dante, except he starts with the Yamato and has Devil Trigger from the start. After beating Dante Must Die mode, you unlock Super Dante, which is basically just Dante with infinite Devil Trigger, which I don't know why you need infinite Devil Trigger at this point after beating the hardest difficulty in the game, but I mean, I guess you get it now. The game isn't very long, it's actually quite short, so it can be beaten in probably less than 4, maybe even 3 hours, so it's highly replayable, and it's meant to be replayed, obviously. The game holds up in nearly every aspect, from the beautiful cinematography with the different camera angles, the actual combat and gameplay, the soundtrack, and even the graphics hold up and look better visually and artistically than most, modern games that have come out 20 fucking years later. Like, obviously I'm not talking about graphical fidelity here or how many polygons a flower pot has, but the actual art style and how all the colors and the levels actually pop. But yeah, great game. I'd probably rate it a 9.5, maybe a 10. In all honesty, the only downside is the harder difficulties. The camera can be dog shit, but other than that, the game is fucking amazing. But yeah, as the first game in the franchise, this series obviously has really high potential, so I'm sure whatever the next game is in the series will be even better and will surely improve upon all of the core aspects of the first game, right? Maybe I'll like even review DMC 2, like maybe DMC 2 will be even a better game. Like DMC 2 might be the biggest masterpiece ever fucking made. If this video does, decent or good enough though, I don't know, this shit took a long time to edit and I don't know how well this video will do, but if you did make it this far, thanks, I appreciate it, and shit, let me know if you would like more Devil May Cry reviews. I'd like to at the very least review DMC 3 and DMC 5 at some point though. But yeah, thanks for watching, and make sure you go play Devil May Cry 1, it's a great game.